Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome all viewers, Hadith disciples and others. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu salam ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi. Amma ba'd. I came across an article on Becca.net. The article says, real Hadith disciples do not forsake the scholars. A brief Hadith study. The author of the article then says, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the ever merciful. Know that the people of knowledge shall indeed be forsaken by some. It is a reality that has been foretold in the Hadith of Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, as found in the two Sahih compilations of Al-Bukhari and Muslim. It then says in Arabic, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي قائمة بأمر الله لا يضرهم من خذلهم أو خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله وهم ظاهرون على الناس. A group of my ummah shall not continue to uphold the order of Allah. Those who forsake or oppose them do not harm them until the affair of Allah arrives, whilst they are still uppermost among the people. These people are known as the scholars of Islam. As Imam al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on him, said in his chapter titled, They are the people of knowledge. The statement, those who forsake or oppose them do not harm them, indicates that there will indeed be people who speak ill of the scholars and try to divert the people from them. This is from the predetermined qadr of Allah as part of the struggle between truth and falsehood that He, the Almighty and All-Wise, has decreed to be one of the many tests His servants shall face. The scholars of Islam actively work to provide solutions to the Ummah's problems in every place. Allah blesses their time and efforts, the effects of which can be found everywhere upon earth by His permission. They are the best of Allah's servants, His true allies, those He has paired His divine testimony with. شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم. Allah testifies that there are none worthy of worship except Him. That there are none, that's what it says here, there are none worthy of worship except Him. And the angels also testify. And the people of knowledge also testify as well. Quran 3:18. With this, they still opposed and forsaken day and night by the very people who are in dire need of them. They are slandered. They are unjustly vilified. They are described by the ignorant and deviant as unconcerned and disconnected from the ummah. Yet those who forsake or oppose them do not harm them. A point for serious reflection. True, and then it has parentheses, Hadith disciples are those who uphold this Hadith, its wordings and its meanings. They are those who work to expose and warn against those who undermine the work of the scholars and attempt to disconnect the people from them. On the other hand, fraudulent self-proclaimed Hadith disciples can be found demonstrating the exact behavior warned against in this Hadith, forsaking and opposing the scholars with terrible and unjust words, which could only come from levels and layers of deep contempt for the people of knowledge. Then it says a recent example, and it's a link to an audio clip that will play bidhnillahi ta'ala very soon, inshallah, very shortly. It then says, once they replace our scholars, again, that same disturbing question poses itself once again. If they are pinching us away from the scholars of Islam, where are they taking us? Moosaa Richardson, 1438, 1122. Then we have a link for follow-up reading once they replace our scholars. Then they have the different tags. Then we have a few comments and some further words posted by the author of the article. Khairan, inshallah. With this being said, there are a few issues that we want to discuss regarding this article and regarding the author of the article. And bidhnillahi ta'ala, we want to have a discussion. We don't want it to turn into a nasty food fight of malicious and malevolent slander, name-calling. We don't want it to turn into an issue of slicing people's hearts open, digging up the niyat of the people, the maqasid of the people, what you meant, you said this, so on and so forth. We want to have a discussion which is knowledge-based, which is scientific, and at the same time, which is critical. Bidnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So before we get started with the author of the article and his article on his website, becca.net, I would say this. Perhaps a question that many people may be asking themselves in light of the recent things that have been said and are being said, rather for a good amount of years now. They say, why don't you clarify? Why don't you make a bayan? Why don't you explain what you meant? Or why don't you recant your statements? Or why don't you make public tawbah? Or why don't you let the people know what exactly you're trying to say? And so on and so on and so on and so forth. The whole entire bayan culture, its history, its foundations, who started it, was it known among the people of knowledge, let alone in the way in which it's known now, and which is a staple concept. And it's, as we said, a culture, a bayan culture. Write a bayan, make a bayan, then there's a bayan of a bayan, and a bayan of that bayan, and a refutation of the bayan. This whole entire culture of the bayan, where it came from, who was the first to institute it, where was he previously, before, who influenced him with this concept of forcing people to write bayans, making bayans, so on and so forth. I would say it reminds me of a statement, not of a scholar of Islam, not of a Muslim, a statement of a non-Muslim, which is very profound, and I feel that it's very relative to this entire culture of bayans, and the people having frenzies, okay, and being obsessed with bayans. Some people, they say that it was Albert Hubbard, the famous American writer, and others, they say it was attributed to the 36th president of the United States, LBJ, or Lyndon Johnson. And the statement goes as, never explain yourself. And some people, they don't mention the first part of the statement, but they say that when President Johnson was asked about a scandal, something that was going on, something that was happening in his presidency, obviously he was the vice president, JFK, so on and so forth, they said, aren't you going to explain yourself? Aren't you going to defend yourself? Aren't you going to make it clear, so on and so forth? And some people, they say that the president at that time, or Albert Hubbard, whoever said it, the hikmah is dalatul mu'min, as it states in the narration, is the lost possession of the believer. Wherever he finds it, he takes it, all right? So they said, or he said that he said, they say that he said what? He said, my friends don't need it, and my enemies won't believe it. He said, my friends don't need it, and my enemies won't believe it. Now, just stop and think about this now. Obviously, some people are going to say, you're quoting from the kuffar, you're quoting from sources, you're using philosophy, so on and so forth. We know how many people think and how they, or what they say. But just stop and think about the statement. My friends don't need it, and my enemies won't believe it. So, in the Islamic sense, my friends, my brothers, family members, my companions, my students, people that watch my videos, read my books, people that correspond with us, they don't need it. In other words, the classes, the content of the classes, the amount of the classes, the consistency of the classes, and the actual, as we said, the actual mukh, okay, the actual kernel, the content of those lessons is well known. Where I came from, where I studied, who I sat under, what qualifications that I have, academic accomplishments are well known. What I say in 1,000 lectures, what comes in one lecture, one clip, is well known. At worst, he made a mistake. At best, he made a statement that was vague. He made a statement that needs further understanding or interpretation in a good manner, in the ahsan mahmal, as is well known to the people of knowledge. So that's what's meant by my friends, they don't need it. I'm not saying that a person, myself, is infallible or exempt from mistake. But what's meant by that is my friends don't need it because it's well known. And my enemies, they won't believe it. You write a bayan, you say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Or I'm free from this one, and that's a long discussion in itself. I'm free from this sheikh, I'm free from this da'iya, Abu Fulan, Al-Fulani, Al-Allani, I'm free from them. And they say, no, the bayan is insufficient. Write another bayan. That's not enough. Your bayan wasn't good enough. Or as many brothers, they wrote bayans, whether they were wrong or right, whether they thought they were wrong or right, whatever the case, but they wrote bayans. And even to this day, they're still refuted. They're still mocked. They're still humiliated. They are still rejected and outside of the circle of the people that you should take your knowledge from. So that's my interpretation of my enemies won't believe it. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what you bring to them, they already have a full belief about you, what you are, what you meant, what you said. You did say it. Rather, there are many people who make blatant lies and blatant inaccuracies and absurdities, even though you play your actual clip, but they still continue to lie and put words in your mouth. So just look at that statement, and I will personally say that is the light of the whole entire, in my view, of course, is once again, it's my view, of bayan culture, of this article and everything. My friends don't need it, and my enemies won't believe it. Because people are going to say what they want to say about you. They're already going to have presupposed information or thoughts and ideas about you in their heads, no matter what you do, no matter what you say. Khairan, inshallah ta'ala. So with that being said, what we want to do with this article, and to the author of the article, Mark Richardson, or some people know him as Moosaa Richardson, we're going to discuss some points and some inaccuracies, some major flaws and mistakes that he made in this article with regards to my speech, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's get started here, in which he says, real hadith disciples do not forsake the scholars. A brief hadith study. Know for sure Moosaa Richardson, Musa, or the son of Richard, whatever your name is, or supposedly is, and everyone who's listening and watching, is that it's a sad reality that someone's brain that has been saturated and soiled with personality worship, with the love and the passion of blind following, with ghulu, extremism, and perversion, a well-known style of a person whose mind is like this, is that they use provocative titles. They use fancy and exotic titles to overset or to compensate for the lack of actual content in what they're saying. That's one usloob. They use a provocative title. And they take a well-known caller to Islam, a well-known scholar of Islam, who lahu qadam sidq. He's taught the sunnah, explained the sunnah, wrote books for years before the person that's actually refuting him. And he brings a provocative title. He says this about such and such. He says with regards to the Quran, meaning the kalam of Allah and the Sahaba and Iman, and to make him into some far way off shot type of mubtadi', deviant. And his history is well known. And obviously this is something which is easily swallowed up and gulped up by people who are weak-minded, people who are simple-minded, people who lack the actual knowledge of Islam, let alone good, solid common sense, to dupe people with the actual provocative title, real hadith disciples. So that's a well-known style. And there are many examples of this we don't have time to get into. Number two is another well-known usloob of a person of extremism and a person of personality worship, a ghulu, is that they slander the character of their opponent, their scholastic opponent, the one that they're refuting scholastically, supposedly, before they even get into the actual topic at hand. So before you actually get into what's being said, what was said, what's the dalil, what are the principles, what's right, what's wrong, it's already a slander and attack. It's already something which is scandalous. Real hadith disciples, in other words, fake hadith disciples, do forsake the scholars. And anyone that I speak about or write about, in my narrow interpretation, is a fake disciple of hadith. And that's a well-known style of the people of ghulu. We've seen it for years. If you don't believe me, you don't have to take it from me. Listen to the tapes if they're still available. Many tapes have been taken down from their websites. Many lectures are not available. They're not transparent. They're not public. And many articles have mysteriously vanished. But even to this day, you can find a good amount of content in which they use provocative titles. And also they slander the person that they are refuting before they actually get into the sulb al-mawdu'. So a word is called hizbi, mubtadi', dal, mudil, before they actually get into what was said and what is the dalil for the person who's making the criticism being right and the one who's being criticized to be incorrect. Number three, a third point of reflection is just the title Musa. The third point of reflection is, as we're going to play bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in the audio clip says hadith disciples. The clip that you're speaking about was not on hadithdisciple.com, nor was it on YouTube Hadith Disciple channel, nor was any slogan, any banner, any logo, or any reference to Hadith Disciple ever made in that clip. The 50-second part that you put in your article in the link, which we're going to get into, or the entire full-length clip. So where are you getting the concept of hadith disciple from? And what does it have to do with hadith disciple? What do you know about hadith disciple? Are you a hadith disciple? Do you want to be a hadith disciple? Are you jealous? Are you envious? What does hadith disciple have anything to do with the speech that is on Mufti Q&A, which is a separate and totally different entity on YouTube, a different website? So where do you have the time in your busy schedule, being this erudite writer and this prolific criticizer of people, to know about hadith disciple and what we're saying and what we're doing? Let alone if our situation and us being upon innovation or disrespecting scholars is well known for years. And this is not just an address to you, Musa, but this is anybody, all of the brothers. And I don't have to mention no names. We don't have a problem if we have to, but it's no need to. Why are you still listening to my speech? How did you even come across my sound clip, my sound bite? Unless you yourself are in your home, listening, watching, perhaps benefiting, perhaps learning, perhaps stealing, biting, and borrowing. Only Allah knows. I'm not going to accuse you of things that I don't know about. I'm not going to fall into your errors. I'm not going to slice open your chest, metaphorically speaking, and say what you meant and what you intended. I'm not going to do that, what you did and what you and your friends do. However, I'm going to ask you that question on every critical or discerned or concerned viewer and listener and watcher. What does Mufti Q&A have to do with hadith disciple? And what do you know about hadith disciple? For indeed, Musa, I do not follow you. I do not listen to you. I do not watch your videos. I do not read your articles. Alhamdulillah, there was a time in which I did. Well, alhamdulillah. I did meet you maybe 2 or 3 times in Mecca. Walillah alhamd. But other than that, I don't have no time to realize or to sit and listen to anything that you say and anything that you do. Not saying that it's negative and it's all false, because that's also unjust. But I just don't have the time. You're not of that importance to me. So why am I of that importance to you where you know about a hadith disciple? Now, not so much about you, Musa, because I don't know what's in your heart. And like I said, I'm not going to dig into your heart. We're going to get to those ayats and those hadith with regards to slicing open the heart, which is also another well-known usloob of the people of extremism, the people of personality worship, the people of jealousy and envy, the people of taqleed, and the list goes on. And I didn't say anyone's name. If the shoe fits, then wear it, as we say. It's a well-known usloob, okay, with regards to being obsessed. Someone is a munharif, he's a mubtadi', he's a deviant, he's a hizbi, he's a mutasattir, he's a mutalawin, he's this and he's that. And every new statement, every new video is spoken about in your forums, your websites, on your YouTube channels. Why are you obsessed with somebody? If somebody's a deviant, why are you still listening to him? Why are you still critiquing him and criticizing him? Unless you yourself are learning from that person, unless you yourself are obsessed with that person, unless you and your friends are afraid and insecure that your followers, your groupies, your tag-alongs, those who swallow everything that you say will be affected. And they'll listen to something that's being said about you. And they'll realize everything that you're claiming is not necessarily the truth. Now, we all know that many of the pious predecessors, when we read the kutub of adab al-muhaddith, the adab of talab al-hadith, and talab al-ilm, the etiquettes of seeking knowledge and learning hadith, they would say, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَن تَعْلَمَ خَطَأَ مُعَلِّمِكَ فَجَالِسْ غَيْرَهُ. They would say, whenever you want to realize the mistake of your teacher, then sit with somebody else. When you want to find out the errors of your teacher, scientific errors, whatever, al-muhim, naqs, something that he's lacking in, then sit with somebody else. And you'll see the styles and the expertise and the different things that someone else has that your teacher doesn't. And you can't get that if you never sit with someone that's not your teacher. So the point that I'm trying to get to is that perhaps only Allah knows about obsession, jealousy, envy. We don't have the ability to say what's in a person's heart, all right, like you do. However, the point is that why are you so concerned with what someone else is saying that's already supposed to be a deviant, that's outside of the circle of Salafiyah, unless that you're intimidated, unless you're scared, unless you're afraid of your followers and those who listen to you perhaps will be affected. And this isn't specific to you, Moosaa Richardson, don't feel special, but it's everyone that goes in your orbit as well. Khair, inshallah. We don't want to spend too much time on that. Alhamdulillah, the author of the article, Richardson, he says, a brief hadith study. So due to the fact that you said that it was brief, we're not going to dig too deep, but we do have some criticism with regards to your lack of scholastic thoroughness in your quoting of the hadith. All right, so let's get started. Bismillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost, it says, know that the people of knowledge shall indeed be forsaken, with an exclamation mark. It says by some, exclamation mark. We agree with you, Mark. There will be people who will forsake the scholars. That is a reality, something that you yourself wrote and mentioned, predetermined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, he prophesied this, that it will take place. That there will be people who will forsake the people of knowledge. Perhaps you're one of them. Maybe you've forsaken the scholars. And what's meant by forsaking the scholars, what we're going to get into in your article. What's meant by upholding or respecting and loving the scholars? Worshipping them? Blindly following them? Taking every statement and disrespecting other scholars who are opponents of those scholars? Is that what's meant by upholding the legacy of the scholars? And speaking on an evil, speaking on a reality in society, a reality of 2017 which cannot be denied by someone who has a sound mind and two open eyes and open ears. The reality of things. Is that what's meant by forsaking the scholars? Also, inaccuracy in your statement, scholars. And we're going to get into the voice clip and the audio clip. Not once did I use any plural sense or term. Not once did I say scholars. Not once did I say those, them, whom. Not once. Every single word that I mentioned, whether I was right or wrong, accurate or inaccurate, I said he. Khayr, inshallah. We'll get there, but then subhanahu wa ta'ala, and perhaps I've erred in that. We'll see, inshallah. So therefore, we believe and we accept that fact that there are people that will be forsaken by there will be people who will forsake the scholars. That's not mahallun niza'. And that's the next strike against you and against your pitiful band, okay, of people who they busy themselves in their refutations with something which is mujma' alayh. It's mahal ittifaq and lad al-jami'. Everyone agrees on a point, and they use that as their springboard for the mahallun niza', for the actual issue of difference of opinion. That's a well-known usloob among the people of whatever name or title you want to give them. It's well-known. Is that they take something which is ijma' and then they branch off into something which is khilaf shadid, something which is muhtamal, is possible, it can go more than one way, and they make that issue an issue of agreement. That's a clear scientific error that you've clearly fallen into in this horrible, pathetic, sad excuse for a scholastic refutation in this article. So we don't disagree with you that there were people who will forsake the scholars, and we say that you may be one of them. And your other friends and buddies and tag-alongs who worship certain scholars, basically, and blindly follow and put them on a status only Allah knows of what they put them on, that is also forsaking the scholars. Because those ulama, and from them is Sheikh Rabi', are the people that taught us and explained to us and told us, follow the truth. Listen to the truth. Do not worship me. Don't take from me. Don't blindly follow me. Don't kiss me on my forehead. Don't walk behind me. We saw this in Medina. We saw this. Don't walk behind me. Don't follow me. Those are the people who told us what the proper adab and akhlaq are with regards to ittiba', and with regards to a student of knowledge having a different view with a scholar. So that first point is something that you need to think about. Then he goes on to say, it is a reality that has been foretold in the hadith of Muawiyah. There are many other companions who narrated this hadith as well, but alhamdulillah, you said a brief study, so we're not going to take you up on that. But there are many other Sahaba, several of them, that reported this hadith as is well known in the books of Takhrij. So also you're missing a reference. There's no number. Where is it at in Bukhari and Muslim? That's missing. Okay. Also, who does the wording belong to? Bukhari or Muslim? Did Bukhari and Muslim agree upon a specific wording? This is all sloppiness in Takhrij, Musa. You should know that. Now, you're going to say it's a brief study, which we already brought up, but it's still sloppy. Moving forward, it says here, these people are known as the scholars of Islam. As Imam al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy upon him, said in his chapter title, they are the people of knowledge. That is very sloppy, and that is qusurun shadid of what the shurah of hadith actually said about this narration. They do not agree. There is not ittifaq and ijma' among the shurah that these people are just the scholars, let alone the scholars. Rather, as you said, that's the interpretation of Imam al-Bukhari. Is that wrong? We're not saying that it's wrong. Are the scholars not included in that? We're not saying that, so don't go and say that. But we're showing you your scholastic sloppiness. Your article is not tight at all. And we're going to read some kalam of the actual ulama, the people of knowledge, the scholars of the past, with regards to this hadith and what they said it means and what it doesn't mean. Let alone, Musa, the different narrations that talk about jihad, that talk about fighting in Allah's cause, that they will fight the Dajjal, they will be victorious until the end of time, until the wind comes, that calm, soothing wind, and it takes all of their souls. What's the point of this? The point of this is to show you that that interpretation is only one from among many. So once again, a well-known style, and it isn't an accident, brothers and sisters. Mark Richardson and many others, they have been trained and they've been conditioned to think like this, to take something which is vast and to minimize it and make it in one single narrow lane, and then aggressively force their opponent into their one tafsir and their one ta'wil. That's a well-known usloob, as we can clearly see in your article. Now, let's read some narrations, or not even narrations, let's read some of the kalam of the ulama of Islam with regards to this hadith and what it means, and is it just restricted to the scholars? Once more, Mark Richardson, and anyone else who's listening, don't say that, oh, he's saying the scholars are not included in this hadith. He's saying that, or he's calling to the people of takfir and jihad and suicide bombings. No, that's not what we're trying to prove. Your lack of thoroughness in what you wrote. قال الحافظ رحمه الله تعالى Ibn Hajar رحمه الله, he says in Fath al-Bari, quoting from At-Tabari, المراد بالذين يكونون ببيت المقدس الذين يحصرهم الدجال إذا خرج فينزل عيسى إليهم فيقتل الدجال ويظهر الدين في زمان أو في زمن عيسى ثم بعد موت عيسى تهب الريح المذكورة فهذا هو المعتمد في الجمع والعلم عند الله تعالى. Ibn Hajar, he speaks about how the Dajjal will be slain. He'll be slain by Isa. And how there will be Muslims towards the end of time that will be they'll be laid under siege, they'll be fighting, and then the Dajjal will be killed. And after the Dajjal is slain, after he's killed, Ibn Hajar, he says from Tabari, he says, وَيَظْهَرَ الدِّينِ. The deen will be zahir. The deen will be manifest, meaning victorious and strong. He then says, then after the death of Isa, the wind will come down. And this is the mu'tamad fil jama'. He says, harmonizing all of the different narrations, he says, هذا هو المعتمد. Is Ibn Hajar right, wrong, or the other ulama? That's not the point. The point is, Ibn Hajar, we all know what Ibn Hajar is, hopefully, bid'nai ta'ala, is saying that there isn't just one narration. There isn't just one ta'weed, one tafsir of the hadith, that they are the scholars. As you're trying to narrowly force me into the corner. Moving forward, An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says about this hadith, وأما هذه الطائفة فقال البخاري هم أهل العلم وقال أحمد بن حنبل إن لم يكونوا أهل الحديث فلا أدري من هم وقال القاضي عياض إنما أراد أحمد أهل السنة والجماعة ومن يعتقد مذهب أهل الحديث. An-Nawawi, he says, this ta'ifa, Bukhari said they are Ahl al-Ilm, as you said, the people of knowledge. And that's also, it's wrong, but it's a bit of sloppy translation as well. Saying Ahl al-Ilm, the people of knowledge, and saying the ulama, the scholars, sometimes it's the same and sometimes it's a bit different. But we're going to take you up upon that later with the next subhanahu wa ta'ala. He then says, Ahmad ibn Hanbal says, if they're not Ahl al-Hadith, then I don't know who they are. If they are not Ahl al-Hadith, I don't know who this ta'ifa, this triumphant group that will remain to the end of time, I don't know who they are, who they can possibly be. So you didn't mention that in your article as well. Qadi Iyad, he says, there anyone who believes in the way of Ahl al-Hadith. Anyone who believes in the way of Ahl al-Hadith and not restricted to scholars, as you said. An-Nawawi, he also said, and perhaps this is from the most comprehensive of the different interpretations, he says, ويحتمل أن هذه الطائفة مفرقة بين أنواع المؤمنين منهم شجعان مقاتلون ومنهم فقهاء ومنهم محدثون ومنهم زهاد وآمرون بالمعروف وناهون عن المنكر ومنهم أهل أنواع أخرى من الخير ولا يلزم أن يكونوا مجتمعين بل قد يكونوا متفرقين في أقطار الأرض. An-Nawawi, he says, it is possible, he says, يحتمل, it's possible that this ta'ifa is not restricted to one field of expertise. One field of expertise. He says, rather, they will be split up among the believers. He says, there are brave warriors. Shuj'an muqatilun. He says, and there are also fuqaha, jurists, ulama of fiqh, law doctors. And there are also people of hadith. There are also people of zuhd. There are also people who enjoin the good, forbid the evil. وَمِنْهُمْ أَنْوَاءٌ أُخْرَى. He says other types and other specialities and fields of expertise from good. And it is not a restriction that everyone be in one place, one time, one field of expert. What is the point from this, listeners? Musa is saying that what you said about Bukhari is wrong? No. But showing you that your article was scholastically sloppy. And there's a reason why you made it sloppy, and there's a reason why you made it brief. I'll leave that between you and yourself. He then says, the statement, those who forsake them or oppose them do not harm them, indicates that there will indeed be people who speak ill of the scholars. There's no doubt about that. We don't differ on the fact that there are people who will belittle the scholars and speak ill of them and disrespect them. That's not the mahal of niza between me and you. However, for somebody, which we're going to play the clip to say, in a specific situation, in a specific context, and as Sheikh Rabi', your Sheikh, he clearly said, or is well known, him and other ulama, they would say, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymin is well known, inna siyaqa hakam, that the context of the speech is the judge. That is the thing which determines what's meant and what's ghayru murad. So for you to take a clip, which you did, 57-second clip, and to play it, and to make a snippet, all right, that obviously doesn't uphold the legacy of Sheikh Rabi' and those other ulama who have taught us in Medina, in Mecca, that the siyaq, the sabiq and the lahiq, the before and the after, is the thing which proves what's meant sandwiched in the middle. Did you skip that class, Musa? Did Sheikh Rabi' not tell you that? Did you not read any of the books or the tapes of Sheikh Rabi'? Because we got that from Sheikh Rabi' and from others as well. The concept of the text. Any book of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymin that you read, and any tafsir he's making, any sharh he's making, he always focuses on sabiq al-kalam wa lahiqihi. He talks about what's before and what's after to prove what's meant. So how can you say that if a person says a specific statement, regardless whether that was wrong or not, what I meant by it or not, that is absolutely forsaking and opposing the scholars. And to take a snippet, that's another scientific inaccuracy that you have made. He then goes on to say that how this is the qadr. We don't disagree with him on that. Walillahi alhamd. He says the scholars of Islam actively work to provide solutions to the ummah's problem in every place. That isn't necessarily something that we disagree with. We are fighting with you on. First and foremost, as we're going to mention, bid'ah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I learned from the scholars of Islam. I learn from the scholars of Islam on a daily basis, every single day. I read a book, I listen to a tape, a phone call is made to a scholar of Islam. That's not the mahal niza', ya akhi barakallahu feek. That's not the mahal niza'. And that's very sloppy and deceitful and treacherous, which we're going to get into bid'ah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He then says, and the point we're trying to get to, brothers and sisters, if you to understand, is that this is not an accident, this is a program that Musa, Mark, whatever his name is, has been programmed to think like. It's to snip, to cut, to paste, and to drive its one point home as if we're differing on this issue. That the ulama of Islam are the people who teach Islam, who give the fatwa to the people, who help the people out, who pick up their phones. That is not what I said. If that's what you understood, that is not what I meant. And we want to clarify that that is ghayru maqsood. That's incorrect. Whether I was right or whether I was wrong, that is scientifically incorrect in your response and in your criticism. Moving forward, he then quotes from the Quran, the famous ayah, Shahidallahu annahu la ilaha illahu. That's something we do not differ and fight with you on. That the ulama of Islam, they have a status with Allah. They have a status in the Quran, in the Sunnah. We don't differ. We don't fight with you on that, Musa. So stop trying to make it, turn it into something that actually isn't the point. Moving forward, he says, they are described by the ignorant and the deviant. In other words, anyone who says something against or anything critical pertaining to scholars, dawah, America, busying yourself, helping out your country, they're ignorant, they're deviant. Number 3, they describe the scholars as unconcerned and disconnected to the ummah. We're going to get there with the nice subhanahu wa ta'ala and show you how poor and terrible your understanding and lack of knowledge that you have, the lack of knowledge you have. He then says, true hadith disciples, once again, thank you, Musa, for giving us acknowledgement for hadith disciple, because once again, the clip was not on hadith disciple, so you are giving us a shout out. Walillahi alhamd. He says, those who uphold this hadith, its wordings and its meanings. What are the wordings and meanings of the hadith, Musa, if you didn't mention them in your brief article? What meanings are there? You mentioned how many meanings? What wordings of the hadith did you mention for the layman to understand? He then says, true hadith disciples are those who uphold this hadith, its wording and its meanings. They are those who work to expose and warn against those who undermine the work of the scholars and attempt to disconnect the people from them. Now, let's mention something that I wrote some years back and something that I wrote a few months ago. And let's see who has forsaken the scholars and what do we believe about the scholars of Islam. Here, walillahi alhamd, our manual, 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge. Walillahi alhamd, a book that Allah has allowed, only Allah knows best, countless people to benefit from. Walillahi alhamd. Let's see what the author of this book says about the scholars. Page 19, the 10th Hadith. It says the paramount status of the ulama. Kathir ibn Qais told how when he was sitting with Abu Darda in the Masjid of Damascus. And then we mentioned the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ says that the ulama are the warathatul anbiya, the heirs of the prophets. So, for me to put a chapter, and the book was printed in when? Let's see the year. 2014 is when it was printed. I wrote it before it was printed, obviously. So let's say 2012, 2013. We say here the paramount status of the ulama. So, for me to say the paramount status of the ulama, is that forsaking the ulama? Is that opposing the ulama? Is that disconnecting the people from the ulama? Is that saying ill, slanderous things about the ulama? Moving forward, page 21. It says the death of the ulama, a true tragedy. Hadith number 11. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhuma reported the Messenger of Allah as saying, Inna Allah la yaqbidhu al-ilm intiza'an yantazi'u min an-nas. Allah will not remove knowledge by snatching away from the people, but by the death of the scholars. Is that the speech, Musa, of someone that has no love, no respect, no care, no concern for the ulama, and he wishes to cut the people off from the ulama? Is that the speech of someone who believes that? Moving forward, page 22 says the disappearance of true knowledge. Page 24, the symptoms of those who combine between learning and teaching. Page 26, seeking refuge in the law. Page 27, the great harm and danger of the impostor ulama. The great harm and danger, not harm, but the great harm and the great danger of those who imitate the ulama and are imposters, fake ulama. So, how does that sound with regards to what you wrote in your horrible article? Now, somebody's obviously going to say, well, that was old. That's old. You've changed. You've went further astray. You've deviated since you wrote that book, even more than you are, because I was a deviant when I wrote this book, according to those who say that I'm a deviant. Okay, no problem. Mufti Q&A says here, inside the book, this book was printed in 2017. 2017. Okay, so that's, if I'm mistaken, or if I'm not mistaken, that's this year. So let's see what Muhammad ibn Munir, fraudulent hadith disciple, says about the scholars. Now, in the book here, this is over 100 pages. So we're not going to go through every single page. We're just going to give you a few selections to show you your ignorance and your deceit and your treachery. Do you know about this book? Does he know about this book? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. But if he doesn't know about the book, perhaps he should have known about the book before he wrote what he wrote and said what he said. It says here, let's take an example on page 15 after the different introductions. Page 15, dhikr beads. Question says, Assalamu alaikum ya Sheikh. My question is regarding the validity of using prayer beads, for I'm hearing conflicting views on this, and I am hoping you would clarify this matter. To the end of the question. The answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brother in Islam, inshallah you are well and fine. May Allah bless you in both worlds. It then says, moving down a few lines, it says, as for the permissibility or impermissibility of using dhikr beads, that's an issue of fiqh over which the people of knowledge differ. Do what's best and avoid which is problematic, to the end of the answer. So we clearly affirmed on this page, we're not making this up, lying to anyone. We affirmed what? The people of who? Knowledge, the ulama, the scholars. Moving forward, page 17. The next question says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. This is the answer to someone who's confused with regards to the heading says garments with the American flag and doubts about the companions. They're asking about, can't you have a patch on your jacket, American flag? People talk about the companions, so on and so forth. The answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brother in Islam, Allah bless you in both worlds. As far as the first question, then we go on a few paragraphs. It then says, the scholars of Islam, once again, the who? Scholars of Islam. They are not the religion of Islam, and the religion of Islam is not the scholars of Islam. Listen carefully, Mark. We benefit from them, learn from them, And they have serviced the religion, but they do not and cannot make up the legislation of the religion. Those who can decipher for themselves to the end of the speech of Muhammad Munir. So we clearly affirmed Moses or Musa. We said what? Number one, there are scholars in Islam, not me, but there are scholars in Islam. We love them, we benefit from them, we learn from them, so on and so forth. We do not take them as lords besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Moving forward, page 21. It says here, the question is regarding authenticity of certain supplications. There's a picture of the screenshot of the question that was sent to us. The answer says, some of those hadiths are collected in Sahih Muslim. All of those hadiths are well known, and some of the people of knowledge declare them to be Hasan. Allah knows best. People of knowledge. Moving forward, page 22, the next page, Moosaa Richardson. The question is regarding Quran, Sunnah, and abrogation. The answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah make you firm, ameen, etc. Until the point in which it says, as you know, the people of knowledge differ on this issue with two main views. So we're affirming the people of who? Knowledge, not my view. So is that the speech of someone who's forsaken the ulama? Who wants to cut the people off from the ulama? Don't take from the ulama? Page 23, the next page. It says, shortening the prayers while traveling. Question 9. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If a person travels for vacation, once they reach their hotel, are they still allowed to shorten and combine their prayers to the end of the question? The answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Akhil Kareem. Allah bless you and reward you well for your inquiry. As far as the question and answer, after seeking Allah's help, we say there are two main views of the people of knowledge regarding this issue. Next page, page 25, or the next sample. Next one page as well. Answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Halal foods, halal and haram foods and products. Firstly, the people of knowledge agree on the permissibility of eating, so on and so on and so forth. We affirm the people of who? Knowledge. Let's go to page 30. Says once more, wearing a turban. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh. I hope all is well, and I ask Allah to keep you firm and enable you to keep benefiting the Muslim community. My question is concerning wearing the turban. Ila akhiri. The answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Marhaba, ahlan wa sahlan, dear disciple and brother in Islam. It then says, wearing a turban is something over which the people of knowledge differ. Next sample, page 31, the next page over. Other scholars say. Next paragraph, other ulama say. See that? So on one page, we're affirming scholars and ulama. Moving forward, page 34 says credit cards. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu fiqh. I was listening to the lecture, explanation of Al-Kaba'ir, the 7th Kabira. Al-Dhahabi is from the scholars. We have an explanation about 90 lessons explaining his book. Have you explained Al-Kaba'ir? Where is your explanation of Dhahabi's work? If we have forsaken the scholars and we want to cut the people off from the scholars. It says in the answer, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa fikum barakallah, dear sister in Islam, Allah bless you. The Islamic rule on having credit cards is a branch from a much larger tree, being the tree of riba and riba banks. The people of knowledge tell us. We, me, myself, we're learning and benefiting from the people of knowledge. You have no shame for your slanderous statements? You have no shyness? Are you forsaking the Prophet ﷺ's words? إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِ فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. You have no shyness, then do as you please. Page 54 says here, neutering cats and other pets. Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're well, or how are you? I hope you're well. I wanted to ask you a question. If you can tell me or just reply in this message, it's kind of time sensitive. I wanted to surprise my kids with a kitten for Eid. I was going to the adoption center to adopt a kitten, and now the fee includes vaccination, spay, or neuter surgery. Ila akhiri, to the end of that speech. The answer says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings and blessings, Akhil Kareem. Sorry for delay in me replying. Then he goes on to say, that is an issue of study and khilaf among the people of knowledge. Now, Musa, the book is 100 pages. I wasn't that good at math in school. I hated math, even to this day. I liked English, I liked history, things like that. I hated math with a passion, and I was never naturally good at it. But if I'm not mistaken, 54 pages is half of what? 100. So we didn't get halfway through the book that was made, written, and printed in 2017. How many times have we mentioned scholars, ulama, fuqaha, people of knowledge? So you need to fear Allah. You need to have some shyness before you speak. And obviously, Musa, perhaps he may say, or some brothers who are going to defend him, the brothers, he's slandering the brothers, he's slandering the people of knowledge, he's slandering the people. He's going to, that's the first thing they're going to say. I don't have time to read your books. I don't have time to read what you wrote. I'm reading the ulama, the speech of the ulama, more bigger and better things, important things. Okay, no problem. That's what you're going to say. So how can you refute if you don't know everything? Isn't it a condition min shurut al-jarih wal-mu'addil, from the conditions of someone who's making jarh and ta'dil? We don't want to get into that issue, any inaccuracies, any ignorance that's widespread with regards to that science and how that science has been disrespected. But the concept of the conditions is that you have to, and yakuna arifan, you have to know what you're talking about. You have to have knowledge. And if you're not willing to go, to listen, to read, then you don't have the right to criticize. Now, Hadith Disciple page. Last time I was informed there probably maybe 1,500 videos that are public. There are hundreds more, thousands more videos, but 1,500 videos public. How many of those videos are explanation of books, fatawa, of past and of present? Is there not a playlist on Hadith Disciple fatawa, and which is Ibn Uthaymeen, Ibn Baz? Did we not explain the book of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, min thamarat as-salah, fruits of the prayer? Do we not have any other ahkam, fiqh, tafsir? There's no aqeedah books, there's nothing in it that we've mentioned from the ulama. Did you not know about that? You know about Hadith Disciple, but you don't know about over 1,000 videos in which we've explained and benefited the kalam of the ulama to the people. So how can you say out of your mouth, out of your face, that we're trying to disconnect people from the ulama, we've forsaken the ulama because of a statement that I made, whether I was right or wrong? We're not there yet. What's the proper intention, the tafsir of the ta'wil? We're not there yet. But does it make any sense, Musa, to take 150-second clip and ignore and neglect 2 books and over 1,000 videos? And that's just Hadith Disciple. That's not counting the other channels in which there are videos that are much older than that, in which we read the kalam of the ulama. So I seriously advise you, Musa, to fear Allah, to watch your tongue, and to shut up if you don't know what you're talking about, and not to make slanderous claims. Moving forward, Moses or Musa or Mark, he then says, on the other hand, fraudulent self-proclaimed Hadith disciples. What is wrong with, we're not going to get into the fraudulent part yet. We're going to jump ahead to self-proclaim. What does that mean? If I say that, inshallah, I want to be a Hadith disciple, there are videos in which we've explained what's meant by that word, what's meant by that term, and what's the interest behind the movement, the Hadith Renaissance. We're trying. What's problematic with that? If it was actually what you're saying, I'm self-proclaimed. What does that mean? That I know all Hadiths? I'm the master of Hadiths? Or I'm trying to learn, study, and teach Hadiths? Is there something wrong with that? Enter? Let alone the fact of fraudulent. Okay, no problem. You're free to say whatever you want to say. What makes me fraudulent and makes you real? What makes me a fraudulent Hadith disciple and makes you a real person of Hadith? Or anyone else? The ulama. The books that we wrote, and there are other books that we've published. These aren't the only books. There are other things we translated, other books that haven't come out yet. We said over 1,500 videos. And you can call somebody fraudulent? It seems as if you're fraudulent. And it seems as if you're jealous and you're envious. Allah knows best. I don't say this. I don't know what's in your heart. But it seems as if you wish that you could be a Hadith disciple. And that you could do some of the things that Allah Azza wa Jal, by His mercy, has allowed us to do. Moving forward, he says, are those who, he says, can be found demonstrating the exact behavior warned against in this hadith. Now, listen to this word. It says, can be found demonstrating the exact behavior. That statement proves what? That statement, we say, can be found demonstrating that it's not just a one-time thing. It's not a 50-second snippet. But they're found demonstrating. In this lecture, in this class, the scholars are nothing. The scholars are stupid. The scholars don't care. The scholars can't help you. The scholars, I'm the scholar. No one's else a scholar. That's what's understood from that statement. So how do you get a 50-second snippet and make that statement? Obviously, this is from your training and your condition, and it's not your fault, Musa. I feel sorry for you. I pity you. It's not your fault, but it's from the people who fed you this poison It made you think in this perverted, sick, twisted way of thinking, of taking one word, which at worst is vague, and said and making it dominant over all other explicit works. Moving forward, Moosaa Richardson, he then says, forsaking and opposing the scholars. What's forsaking the scholars? And what is opposing the scholars? We're going to play what your interpretation is with terrible and unjust words. We'll see how terrible and unjust those words are, which can only come from levels and layers. Listen carefully. Levels, a'maq. Levels, layers of deep content for the people of knowledge. Where is the content for the people of knowledge held, Musa? Except where? In my heart. So do you know what's in my heart, Musa? When's the last time you looked into my heart? Yawma tubal as-sarair. Allah says, on the day in which all secrets will be revealed. Innahu alimun bidhati as-sudur. Allah knows what's in the chests. Ya'lamu kha'inatul a'yun. Wa ma tukhfi as-sudur. Allah says He knows the deceitful gaze, the kha'ina, the khiyana, the treachery in what the people look at. Wa ma tukhfi as-sudur, and that which the breasts hide. Into Allah says, if you manifest it, oh tukhfuhu, yuhasibukum bihillah. Hide it or manifest it, Allah will bring you up upon judgment. So how do you know what's in my heart? Let alone how do you know, Moses or Musa or Mark? I have layers and levels of content against the people of knowledge and for the people of knowledge. He says deep content. That's a serious statement. Can you stand in front of Allah on Yawm al-Qiyamah proving that you know what's in my heart, my niyyah? Now, you are a free writer. You can say which seem, it makes clear, it seems, it was unbefitting, so on and so forth. He shouldn't have worded like that. Mashi, mumkin, possibly. That's not a problem. However, for you to make that bold, decisive statement of layers and levels of deep content for the people of knowledge, and Allah Azza wa Jalla says He knows what's in the breast. He knows what's in the chest. He knows what men conceal. What did the Prophet tell his companion? He says, أَفَلَا شَقَقْتَ عَنْ قَلْبِهِ أَوْ كَمَا قَالَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. He says, why don't you cut his heart open? The companion said, he only said, La ilaha illallah, because he was afraid. I was going to kill him. I was going to take revenge for what he did to me. The Prophet he says, why do you split his chest open? And we can go on and on and on, ayah after ayah, hadith after hadith, with regards to secrets being known only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, Musa, if you have any intellect, if you have any respect for yourself, if you have any respect for the scholars that you claiming to uphold their legacy, then you need to acknowledge some of these mistakes. And as Sheikh Rabi' himself said, Man ahda ilayya uyubi falahu alayya ja'iza. He says, anyone who gives me my mistakes, I'll give him a gift. That's what Sheikh Rabi' said. Anyone who gives me my mistakes, presents them to me, I'll give him a gift. So Moses, the points that we just mentioned, I'm waiting, inshallah ta'ala, and I want my gift from you. Bidnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can mail it to me. I can come to you. You can come to me. You can give me a gift because you've made clear error. Now, let's go and let's listen to the actual clip that he posted. And then we want to listen to the actual full clip in its entirety. Let's listen, Bidnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No, for sure, Yahi, this person, this scholar, does not care about you or your country. It's the haqq. You say whatever you want without no sugar. It's raw. He does not stay up at night if you have problems in your urban community. He doesn't care about what's going on in New York City. So why are you so concerned and caught up and obsessed what goes on in Jordan or Egypt or Saudi or Yemen? That doesn't make any sense. He is not missing his morning tea and breakfast because of the major social ills in Bed-Stuy, New York. Know that for sure. He does not miss his coffee and dates because of single-parent homes and crack babies. This is a reality. This is not a joke. This is real. So if that's the case, then how can you spend all of your time, your energy, and your effort on overseas in the Middle East and neglect the real problems in your community that are dead smack in your face? May Allah help us all. Ameen.
Let's listen to the clip one more time. Please, brothers and sisters, listen very carefully to every word before we make any commentary. Just listen to it again.
No, for sure.
As Musa, he said himself, he said what? Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi told us the importance of repeating things 3 times. And that's a very interesting fact. When I heard you say that in a tape We have a chapter in 40 Hadith on seeking knowledge that says repetition is the key to understanding. Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu reported that the Prophet ﷺ كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا تكلم بكلمة عادها ثلاثا حتى تفهم عنه وإذا أتى على قوم فسلم عليهم سلم عليهم ثلاثا. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ would make a statement, he would repeat it 3 times to make sure that it was understood. And whenever he would give the greetings to a people he met, he would say the greetings 3 times. This hadith has been reported by Al-Bukhari, and we mentioned the number, the takhrij here. So, we don't differ with you on that as well. Let's listen to the clip one more time.
This person, this scholar, does not care about you or your country.
Now, listen carefully. Before we go further, what words were used? Listen carefully, critically.
No, for sure, Yahi, this person, this scholar.
We said this, not these. We said what? This and not these.
Does not care about you or your country. It's the haqq. You say whatever you want without no sugar. It's raw. He does not stay up.
He, not they. Twice, singular.
Night, if you have problems in your urban community, he doesn't care about what's going on in your city.
He. That's the 3rd time. Not they. He.
So why are you so concerned and caught up and obsessed what goes on in Jordan or Egypt or Saudi or Yemen? That doesn't make any sense. He is not.
He. How many times? 4 times.
Seen his morning tea.
His morning tea, not their morning teas. That's 5 times, singular.
Because of the major social ills in Bed-Stuy, New York. Know that for sure. He does not miss.
He, 6 times.
His coffee and dates because of single-parent homes and crack babies. This is a reality. This is not a joke. This is real. So if that's the case, then how can you spend all of your time, your energy?
Stop. After we mentioned singular 6 times, we want to get there, and we already know what you're going to say. So are you talking about one scholar, Yahi? Are you talking about one scholar? Who are you talking about? Sheikh Rabi? Who are you talking about? Whether we're talking about scholars, one scholar, whether we're right or wrong, the point is you are scientifically wrong in your criticism to say someone has forsaken the scholars and forsaken the scholars. And we in the video said a scholar, how many times? 6 times. Can you count, Musa? Now, listen to another very important critical part of the clip. Listen carefully. It says,
now how can you spend all of your time, your energy?
How can you spend all of your time, energy,
effort?
Those are 3 critical terms. Time, energy, effort. What description of time, energy, and effort? We said all, not some. Moving forward.
On overseas in the Middle East.
On overseas in the Middle East. And neglect. A very crucial word. So, someone who spends all of his time, all of his energy, all of his effort, and neglects. Very crucial terms, guys.
Problems in your community.
Neglect your own problems in your community.
Dead smack in your face.
That are dead smack in your face. Not issues that are only for people who are experts, doctors, physicians, therapists, people in certain parts. Everybody knows about these social ills. Whether it's in the urban communities, the ghetto, the hood, whether it's in the suburbs, the boondocks, the sticks, rich, poor, white, black, yellow, it's well known the major social ills that we have in our daily communities. Drug abuse, alcoholism, pornography, cheating, domestic abuse. We said that single-parent homes, drugs, crack, sin, bid'ah, the list goes on. Major problems in our communities that are dead smack in your face.
May Allah help us all.
May Allah help us all. Tight. Now let's go now, bid'nillahi ta'ala, to the original clip. Let's go to Mufti Q&A. It's not Hadith Disciple once more. Tayyib. All right. It has nothing to do with Hadith Disciple. It had nothing to do with Hadith Disciple from the beginning. Now let's listen to the actual clip. Or let's summarize the main part and to show the deceit and the treachery. Now the clip is 5 minutes and 51 seconds. Obviously Moses or Musa, he's going to say, those who are going to defend him, they're going to say, Ya akhi, we don't have time to listen to you. We don't have time to listen to 5 minutes of your batil speech. Okay, no problem. Maybe you don't. Obviously you do, if you follow me and listening to me. But the fact is, don't you think it would have been just to play the entire clip for you to see the siyaq, the context in which we were speaking? That 59 or 57 clip that we just played itself, we want to dissect it even further to show you the details and the ins and the outs and the inaccuracies in your paper. But let's just look at the concept of a 6-minute clip You take 57 seconds from it and say that the person has forsaken the scholars. Moving forward. And he's a fraudulent, and he's a fake, and you're real, and so on and so forth.
Question is regarding, from here, Brooklyn, New York, with regards to some people, when they see you and they say, are you Salafi?
People asking, testing people, are you Salafi? Hal anta Salafi? Are you a Salafi? Which masjid do you go to? Who do you pray behind? Who's your sheikh? Who teaches you? Tayyib? Are you with Abu Fulan in this city? Are you with Abu Fulan in that city? This borough, Brooklyn, Queens?
Do you have lihi? Do you have a beard? You can't be the imam of a masjid or the imam of the salah unless you're Salafi. We say to keep things brief.
Keep things brief, not details. So we discussed the concept of the imam in the religion of Al-Islam. Who is and who isn't an imam, who should and who shouldn't be an imam. Tayyib.
Being an imam in the religion.
Then we move forward all the way to the end of the clip.
About you or your country.
Tayyib. That's where it gets hot.
That's sad.
Nonsense.
That
Listen carefully. Listen carefully.
Women say, yes, I am Salafi. Oh, what type of Salafi? Who do you follow? Who do you sit with? You're in New York City. Who's in New York City teaching? Muhammad ibn Munir? No, you're not Salafi. But if you mention Fulan from this masjid, okay, you're Salafi. Obviously, this is a game.
It's a game.
It's an immature game that many people have been afflicted with.
Many people have been afflicted.
Shyness.
Many people have been afflicted. Tayyib.
Fortunately, they've wasted themselves.
Wasted themselves, meaning talabat al-ilm. Brothers that were bright, that were brilliant. They had the ability to go to Yemen, go to Egypt, go to Medina, actually learn, memorize, benefit from the scholars, and take it back to their people, teach them, cultivate them, nurture them, and purge them of the major ills in aqeedah, in ibadah, in akhlaq, in suluk, in siyasa, and any other aspect of Islam.
And the potential that they had.
They've wasted it.
You went to Egypt, you went to Saudi, you went to Yemen, you came back, and you wasted yourself.
How do you waste yourself? Not teaching, not explaining to the people, splitting up the small, tiny minority of Muslims, practicing Muslims, knowledgeable Muslims, Muslims who are trying to be on the Sunnah, who know something about the pious predecessors, by saying this one, and he's that, and he wrote a bayan, and I won't speak to him, and boycott him, and cut him off. He doesn't visit us. He didn't visit us. He's too young. He records himself. And the list goes on. They've wasted themselves and they've wasted their communities. Musa, are you going to deny this? That this is a reality, a phenomena of 2017. That there are Muslim minority communities that are totally ripped to shreds because of fitna. Are you going to deny that, Musa? I'm asking you right now. Are you denying that? Moving forward.
To benefit your people, you didn't help out your community with this nonsense. That's sad and that's unfortunate. Lost souls. Lost souls. So that's Allah just to guide us all. And it makes people who learn and teach our people. Learn and teach.
Who do we learn from, Musa? Except for what? The ulama, as we said. We learn and benefit from the ulama. Tayyib, moving forward.
Our people. And not getting caught up in this and that and flana. No, for sure, Yahi.
Right, now, here comes the clip that you played. So, anyone who is honest and transparent, anyone who's impartial is going to clearly say, Brother Munir, Muhammad, Mufti, whatever you want to call him, was clearly speaking about something in an arena, in a context. Whether we agree with his speech or not, could he have chosen a better word or not? Perhaps, maybe. But it's clear, when 4 minutes and 55 seconds of the clip, is that there was a context. We didn't just come out saying the scholars don't care about America, as they said it on the internet. The scholars don't care about America. They don't care about you. All right? There's a clear context. But obviously, Musa, and I'll say this to you to be, I was a bit disappointed in you because when I met you in Mecca, I thought that you had a bit more knowledge. I thought you had a bit more common sense. I thought you were a bit more mature than fall into what these dropouts and these half-wit wannabe students are doing, of just taking someone's speech and disregarding everything and taking one snippet, cutting and paste. I thought you were better than that. Obviously, you let me down, but Allah Azza wa Jalla has predetermined that as well. So therefore, right now, Musa, I don't expect you to be fair and to be just. I don't expect you. I did in the past, but not anymore.
Scholar does not.
This scholar, as we just said, we never ever said them, the scholars. So how and what language, Arabic, English, do you take huwa and turn it into whom? How are you taking him, he, and saying they, all of the scholars?
Care about you or your country.
He does not care about you and your country. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And what made me speak with such passion okay, or as you said, Musa, an emotional rant. What made me speak like that is what I see in my community of bright young brothers that have potential, that have the talent to study and to teach their people and to raise ignorance from them, go overseas and get caught up and waste themselves. Let alone the fact that this scholar does not care about you and your country. What's meant by that? What's meant by that? That the scholar doesn't pick up the phone and answer your question? He won't teach you. He won't do a telelink. He doesn't care anything about you, period. He's just totally heedless. He's drinking his luxurious cup of tea and coffee and dates. And obviously that's a statement of major ignorance, because coffee and dates, tea and dates, that's a staple food of Saudi Arabia. That's no luxurious thing. We didn't say they're eating a dhabiha, a whole entire camel slaughtered every night. A whole entire sheep stuffed with rice and almonds. Coffee and dates is something that's basic that every pauper has in Saudi Arabia. Rather, the Prophet ﷺ says, Baytun laysa fihi tamrun, jia'un ahluhu. And Sahih Muslim. A house in which there's no dates, the people are hungry and starving. So I think it was, I don't know who it was, somebody said, he's trying to make the scholars seem that they have a luxurious lifestyle. That's pure stupidity. Rather, what's meant, anyone who has any common sense, is the following things. Number one, this scholar, not the scholars, I said this scholar, he does not have the ability, if he wanted to, stay up at night and stress and pull his hair out and miss food because of every single specific problem that you have in your urban communities in America. We said if he wanted to, let alone the fact that he doesn't even want to, because he has his own problems. He has people calling him from Kuwait, from Libya, from Mecca, from Sudan, from Nigeria, from Indonesia, from Malaysia. What makes you think that the revert Muslims in America, the people that have studied, that have got scholarships, he is going to spend all of his time, effort, and energy on every single specific problem that they have in their country, the politics of America? Rather, we go deeper than this. Look at the Middle East today. What is the position with regards to the neighboring countries of Saudi Arabia? We don't want to open that up because you want to say you're disrespecting the scholars again. You're saying, but this is a reality, akhi. Are you denying this? So obviously that's the maqsood. And it's not meant to disrespect a scholar or the scholars and saying that they don't give a damn about anybody. And they just drink their tea and coffee and that's it. That's not maqsood. And anyone who understood that obviously has a bad intention or horrible, terrible understanding based off of what? The clear context. Moving forward.
It's the haqq.
It's the haqq. There's no sugarcoating the haqq. If you look at the history of America, the masjids being built, where do masjids get money from? Who's teaching in the masjid? Name me this scholar and that scholar. When's the last time they visited in America? And I'm not saying this in a negative context. I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. But we're talking about a reality, Musa, that you do not have the ability to refute and debunk. You clearly couldn't do it in your article. As far as that kalam, farig, fadi, khawi, where's the proof? You can't, because it's the truth. And that is why Saudi Arabia, including the scholars in the Islam University, that's why they teach the students. That's why they give them ijazah. That's why they give them degrees, so they themselves can go back and return as what? People to teach their own family members, friends, and community members. And not for us to answer and to deal with every single issue that you have in America. Moving forward.
Whatever you want, without no sugar, it's raw.
Now, before you go further, I'm going to take you on another point, Musa. When I first got to Medina in 2002, it was a meeting. It was my first time I met Sheikh Rabi'. And they asked Sheikh Rabi', among many other mashaykh that were there, it was Sheikh Rabi', it was Sheikh Fadil Harbi, Sheikh Salih Suhaimi, and there were many others. So they had an istiraha, they had an evening banquet lecture, and they asked Sheikh Rabi' about 9/11. Now, not to go too far off the topic, but I was in high school when 9/11 came. I remember when it happened. It was a crazy day. So I left shortly after 9/11 to go overseas. And they asked Sheikh Rabi', they said, what is the ruling on the Ahdath September? The Ahdath, the terrorists, whatever you want to call it, attack on the Twin Towers in America. Is it jihad fi sabilillah? Is it permissible? Is it from the sunnah, so on and so forth? Do you know what Sheikh Rabi' said? And obviously, Musa, I hope that Sheikh Rabi' is someone that you take from and that you respect. That's all I'll say right now. He said, Is'al ahla America. He said, ask the people of America. what happened to the Muslims after 9/11. He says, ask them about their humiliation, how they were oppressed and persecuted, locked up, some were killed and beaten, some people were stabbed. They stabbed a Sikh cab driver because they thought it was a Muslim in New York City. He says, ask Ahl America, was 9/11 jihad fi sabilillah? How they were disgraced and how they suffer from the things that took place that had nothing to do with them. He says, ask them, was it jihad fi sabilillah? He said, because jihad fi sabilillah, min maqasid al-jihad, from the objectives and intentions of jihad, is supposed to give the Muslims izzah, it's supposed to raise them, elevate them. It's supposed to put them on a pedestal, not debase them. So Sheikh Rabi' himself, I heard this with my own two ears. You obviously want to say, you're lying. Sheikh Rabi' never said that. You're a kadhab, you're hizbi. No problem. Tayyib. We know that it was said. We don't have no problem swearing by Allah. If you want to do mubahala or anything else you want to do. That's what Sheikh Rabi' said in 2002, over 15 years ago. He said, ask Ahl America, ask the Americans, was it jihad? Don't ask me, because I'm not American. Ask them what happened, what took place to the Muslims there, because jihad is supposed to elevate the Muslims and not debase the Muslims. So in this issue, Sheikh Rabi', Shaykhuka anta, your Sheikh, or Sheikh Ashabika, and the Sheikh of your friends and your followers, bil jami'. No one is going to differ on that. That's your Sheikh. We didn't say that he's not our Sheikh, but we're saying that he's your Sheikh for sure. Sheikh Rabi' himself, he said, ask Ahl America, lish. Because the people of America know better of the specifics of their country more than I do. And that is exactly what we're saying here. Why are you busying yourself? Listen carefully to the words.
He does not stay up at night.
He does not stay up at night worrying about all of your specific problems. Are you going to deny that, Musa?
If you have problems in your urban community.
Problems in your urban community. We're not going to dig deeper than that. We're just going to say that.
He doesn't care about what's going on in New York City.
New York City. You go to the Sheikh's house, he says, Sheikh, we come from America, we're on Umrah, we're talabat al-ilm, marhaba, ahlan wa sahlan. He gives you some tea, gives you some dates, we have some questions, give my salams to the people of America. Then, as we're sitting with the Sheikh, whether Sheikh Rabi' or other than that, the phone call rings. The phone call comes, alaykum salam to Allah. Then another comes, fatwa. Then his son comes. And then, in the middle of the majlis, for the Americans, comes the brothers from Libya, and Kuwait, and Iraq, and Syria, and Nigeria. They come in and they have questions. They have masail of hadith and they're reading to Sheikh Rabi' in the middle of the meetings for the Americans. Because the Sheikh is busy and he has hundreds of followers and disciples around the world that prevent him from giving all of his time and attention to your specific problems. This does not mean, my words don't mean this. And I'm telling you now, this is not what I meant at all. That the ulama of Islam don't give a blah, 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 whatever about the Americans, as the ignorant, jealous, scandalous people try to make it seem. That the ulama don't give a damn about the Muslims in the West at all. La yalzam. The kalam doesn't prove that, nor does the siyaq. And I'm telling you right now, if that's what you understood or anyone else, then that's wrong. And the proof is in the pudding. If you can prove that Sheikh Rabi' or any of the mashayikh or the ulama that you want to mention specifically lose their daily routine because of the problems of the Muslims in America, whether it's urban or suburban, tafaddal. Please, I ask you by Allah to bring that proof. Fatawa, books, telelinks, no doubt about that. No one is denying it. As we clearly wrote and said. But you can't prove that. You can't debase that and debunk that. You can just bring kalam khawi. And that's also your usloob as well. It's to just bring baseless speech. And that's why the people of knowledge, they would say, إِذَا ضَعَفَ بُرْهَانُ طَالَ لِسَانُ. When a person's hujjah is weak, he has a very long tongue. There's nothing much that you can say. You don't have no content. You can't prove. You can't go against that. That is a reality of life, Sheikh. It's reality.
So why are you so concerned and caught up?
Why are you so concerned? If we use the word so in the English language, it does not go against any concern. It doesn't reject or necessitate that there's no concern. That's what I want to say. But it proves that you shouldn't be so concerned. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be concerned about your deen and what the ulama say and a person that actually has went away from the sirat al-mustaqim. But you shouldn't be so concerned.
And obsessed.
Obsessed, that's a strong word. In which every article, every website, every khutbah is about Abu Fulan and Fulani. Abu Fulan and Fulani. Fulan, he wrote a bayan. Sheikh Fulan, he made tabdi' of him. He refuted him. Anyone who defends him is a mubtadi'. And in your community, what problems do you have? We don't have to mention the problems that we get on a daily basis. Any imam of any masjid knows the major ills that the Muslims face in America. Urban Muslims and suburban Muslims.
What goes on in Jordan or Egypt or Saudi or Yemen? That doesn't make
Jordan,
sense.
Egypt, Saudi, or Yemen. It doesn't make sense for you to busy yourself with those problems overseas at the expense of your own country.
He is not missing his morning tea and breakfast.
He is not missing his morning tea and breakfast. You're disrespecting the ulama. You're saying that they drink tea all day. That's not maqsood. What's maqsood is this is an ibadah. This is an expression in English. When someone is stressed out, they don't eat. When someone is depressed, when someone is sad, when someone is extremely happy, they don't eat. And the same applies to what we say in our cliche. He says, I'm not going to miss my morning breakfast for it. In other words, my life goes on. What happened to the Muslims in Syria? What's going on to the Muslims in Bangladesh? What's happening to the Muslims in Houston? It's messed up. We make dua for them. If we can financially help them out, if we can physically help them out. At the end of the day, Muslims getting bombed in Syria. Muslims drowning in Bangladesh. Muslims out of power in Houston, Texas. At the end of the day, life goes on for Muslims in New York City. Life goes on for Muslims in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Are you going to starve yourself and not eat the staple food because of the specifics of a person that you don't even know thousands of miles away from you? Musa, I'm asking you about Allah. Is that your interpretation? And do you believe that in your heart?
There's social ills in Bed-Stuy, New York.
Bed-Stuy, New York. That's another qaid. We're talking about something specific. Know that for sure.
He does not miss his coffee and dates.
That's the maqsood of that ibadah. And it doesn't mean, as some jahil is going to say, that it means that the ulama are living a luxurious life and we're saying he's living a luxurious life. We didn't say $1 million home. We didn't say a million real house. We said coffee and dates. In other words, i.e., their daily lives will continue. If the people in Qatar are starving, if the people in Syria are getting blown to bits and the women being raped, they still eat breakfast in the morning because they have to live.
Because of single-parent homes.
Single-parent homes. You deny that, Musa? The divorce rate in America?
And crack babies.
Crack, cocaine, alcohol, marijuana, LGBT, Islamophobia, people not wanting to be Muslim. Are you denying these realities in America? In which people have to be qualified to tackle these issues and not just to translate an article.
This is a reality.
This is a reality. Are you denying that, Musa? Musa, are you denying that reality?
It's real. So if that's the case, then how can you spend all of your time, your energy, and your...
Oh, slow down. How can you spend all of your time, all of your energy, all of your efforts? And we never said no time, no energy, no efforts. We never ever said that. But for a person to be obsessed and his time is swallowed up by Sheikh Fulan's tabdir, and this one and that one and this bayan, and you have people that are on crack. You have children that don't want to be Muslim. You have men beating the Pope out of their wives. You have people with graves in the masjids in America. You have all types of bid'ah and kufr and shirk and sins, transgender, all types of mashakil. Mallahu bihi alim. Does that make any sense, Musa? Is that what you learned in Mecca all those years that you studied there?
Effort on overseas in the Middle East and neglect the real...
Overseas in the Middle East and neglect. Neglect. In other words, there's only time for one or two things. Overseas, Sheikh Fulan's tabdir, and this one and that one, or my own personal community, let alone my own self, my own children. Musa, are you denying this?
...in your community that are dead smack in your face.
Not hidden, dead smack in your face.
May Allah help us all.
May Allah help us all. So, that's what we have to say with regards to that clip. Last but not least, perhaps we'll wrap up going back to your article. You said, radiyallahu anka, may Allah be pleased with you. After that, then you have part 2. And he speaks about, I believe he talks about Yasir Qadhi, things like this. Yeah, he starts off the article, Yasir Qadhi, self-proclaimed scholar and dean of academic affairs. I see that you like that word, self-proclaimed. Type, no problem. Let's go back to your comments. Assalamu alaikum, Musa. What does until the affair arrives refer to? Is it the day of judgment? That's bad. That's horrible respect by the one who wrote that. They shouldn't call you by your first name. Ya Akhil Kareem, call you by your kunya. You should teach your followers the proper etiquettes, speaking to someone that they take knowledge from. Then it says on August 15th, 2017, 10:19 p.m., Assalamu alaikum, brother Musa. See the difference? This article was shared in a chat group and it has caused some inquiries. People from this group has raised the following questions, edited and abridged for briefly. Number one, what did he do to take us away from the Quran and Sunnah, and is he calling us away from the scholars? As we clearly refuted that futile, false, weak, pathetic claim that you made. They were calling people away from the scholars. It then says, where is the dalil for that instead of a metaphoric analogy? He then says, number two, he studied in Kulliyat al-Hadith, i.e., how is he a fraudulent Hadith disciple? What makes a person a Hadith disciple? Mufti's pedigree, Munir's background. Everybody knows he benefited, he studied, and he teaches books of Hadith. So it makes him a fraudulent Hadith disciple. Number three, is this reference to Hadith Disciples YouTube channel? Are you talking about him? Number four, if he was wrong, what did the scholars say? In other words, why did you write an article, Musa, and why didn't you translate the kalam of the ulama? According to you and your group and your groupies and your gang and your followers, that the ulama of Islam, they starve themselves, they stay up at night, they go bald, concerned about every minute detailed problem of the people in the West. So what happened to don't precede the scholars? What happened to that? إِيَّاكَ أَن تَتَكَلَّمَ فِي مَسْأَلَةٍ لَيْسَ لَكَ فِيهَا إِمَامٌ. The famous statement of Imam Ahmed that we hear all the time. Don't speak about an issue that you have no imam for. Who preceded you in the ulama in writing this article according to your own principles? Why do you call Sheikh Rabi'? Why do you get on the phone and say, Ya Sheikh Anan Kareem, Hafidhakum Allah, so on and so forth, Indana Rajulun Yud'a Muhammad ibn Munir, why didn't you go and do that? Why did you write before the ulama wrote? Moving forward, number 5 says, some people quote things out of context, as we clearly explained. Musa says, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Dear sister, I apologize for truncating your questions. I understand you need to ask. However, I felt the questions could be best answered with altered wordings. Number 1, please listen to the clip here. We just played the clip and we explained it in detail. His speech is openly racist and deplorable. What's racist about my speech? Musa, I want to ask you right now. I don't want to get too angry. I don't want to say insulting words to you. But when did I ever mention anything about race? Did I ever say anything about black, Caucasian? Did I say anything about this? Did I ever say anything about a race, a color? Where are you getting this from? He then says, he vilified the scholars with a series of falsehoods and an immature rant. What falsehood did I say about the scholars? I'm waiting for you to prove it. Secondly, what's immature? And what's a rant? 5 minutes and 51 seconds, and half the questions on Musa was about the Imam question. And the end was a small snippet about the Salafi thing. And what was immature about it, Musa? He then says, this is not a question, this is not the speech of a Salafi man. Not even a commoner. I don't understand what the metaphoric analogy is. So what is the speech of a Salafi man? What's the speech of a commoner, Musa? The ulama of Islam, they are busy day and night with every specific problem that we have in America. And they are going to teach and give us everything. They're going to deliver us and save us from all ills, all wrongs. And there's no role of the students of knowledge, of the du'at, of the khidrijeen, the graduates, the doctors, the masters, the bachelors, period. That's what a Salafi says. عندك أنت? He then says, number 2, academic qualifications only open the door, and they absolutely do not grant anyone immunity from being accountable for what they do in dawah. We agree with you, and the same applies to you. Don't you have a degree? Didn't you study formally in Mecca? Burn your degree. Rip up your degree like Sheikh Mupal supposedly did. He then says, quoting someone's qualifications when he speaks with pure falsehood will only lead the people astray. What was pure falsehood about what I said? We're waiting on your answer to show scientifically, ilmiyan, why it was pure falsehood. Moving forward, Musa, I don't think that the person was speaking about the qualifications to say that I was right or wrong. I think they were speaking about your broad claim, your bold statement that I'm fraudulent Hadith disciple. And they were saying he did study in the College of Hadith. Moving forward, Musa, he then says, the scholars say a teacher's real tazkiyah qualification is his actions once he works in dawah. What he teaches, how he teaches, etc. Okay, go on my YouTube channel. What's on my YouTube channel? The law is in every place. The Quran is created. There's no qadr. The Sahaba are in hell. Iman doesn't fluctuate. Bid'ah is permissible. It's from the deen. Knowledge isn't important. You don't have to have a beard. You don't have to look like a Muslim. Is that what's in my books and in my YouTube channel? He then says, if a man tries to steer you away from the scholars by teaching you that they don't care about you, this is clear misguidance. Musa, we just played the clip. We explained the clip. No one ever intended to steer people away from the ulama. Abadan. You're mixing two things, and that's from the attributes of the Yahud. They mix the haqq with the batil. All right? Moving forward, number 3. He says, yes, and I hope and pray that our brothers and sisters who have got caught up in that will find their way back to safety. Established and reliable Salafi students and callers in the West have been warning you against Medina.com and its associates, specifically and generally for many years. What does it have to do with Medina.com? When was the last time I did an article on Medina.com? I posted 2 or 3 translations. That was years ago. What are you talking about, Musa? He then says, open your eyes. And the debacle shows that warnings are not personal grudges, but warnings against clearly flawed methodology. Musa, who said anything about a personal grudge? Let's go back to the questions. It says, what did he do to take from the Quran and Sunnah? He's studying Quran and Hadith. Is there a reference to Hadith? Are you talking about him? Number 4, if he was wrong, what do the scholars say? Some people quote things out of context. Musa, what does it say about personal grudges? No one brought up personal grudges except that you yourself know, and it slipped off your tongue from your heart. Allah knows best, is that you have personal feelings. You need a hug, Musa. You need a pat on the back. Would you like to come and drink tea with me? You want to come on Hadith Disciple? Is that what you want? Because no one even said anything about personal grudges. So why are you bringing it up? Unless you feel guilty. Musa, he then says, but warnings against clearly flawed methodology. We don't disagree with warning against mistakes and people who make mistakes in the proper way. We don't disagree with that. Number 4, after listening to that clip, saying if he was wrong is very disturbing. It shows a very poor level of understanding, and perhaps it comes from being indoctrinated into a cult where one cannot accept criticism against the figure. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Musa. Listen carefully. It says poor understanding because they don't agree with you, so they have poor understanding. Maybe you have the poor understanding. It then says perhaps one being indoctrinated into a cult. I won't say nothing about indoctrination, nor I'll say anything about a cult. I'll let you figure out, I'll let you read the labels, about cults and what's being said about people in the cults. He then says, and cannot accept criticism against the figures of that cult. All right, tell you. Criticize you, Musa, Abu Khadija, Hassan al-Somali, Abu Hassan Malik al-Akhdar, Amjad Rafiq, Bilal Davis, anyone. When someone refutes them, criticizes them, points out that this one didn't study, he didn't graduate, he dropped out, he lied to get back into school, he was this, he was that, he was kada, what's the first thing you say? What's the first thing you say? Don't talk about the brothers. Don't slander the brothers. That's evil speech about the brothers. Even if Abu Khadija didn't study anywhere, he speaks the truth. He speaks good. He talks well. Yuhsin al-khitab. That's not fanaticism. That's not bigotry. That's not an indoctrination to a cult. There's no criticism of anyone in our clique, our clicker, and whatever you want to pronounce it. Nor any scholars. Sheikh Rabi was wrong. Sheikh Rabi made a mistake. Fulan refuted Sheikh Rabi. This scholar said Sheikh Rabi is not right. A'udhu billah. You can't say that. That's evil speech. Anyone who says anything about Sheikh Rabi has left Salafiyya in totality. Yeah, akhi, what is this hypocrisy that you're upon? What is this double standard that you have? That when people attack you, when people criticize you, it's Islam. But when you criticize people, it's Salafiyya. Ittaqillah ya rajul. Fear Allah. Last but not least, nothing was quoted out of context. We clearly proved that that's a lie. The clip is the last part of a public YouTube video called Asking Are You Salafi? Uploaded on August 6, 2017. I will not link you to it. But if you feel you must verify the context, then it is public and verifiable. That's pitiful, Musa. You should be ashamed of yourself for writing such trash, being a graduate from a school like al-Qura. He then says, then we have Ibn Mahmoud. He makes another terrible, pathetic comment, which we're not even going to waste our time reading. Then Asiya, the same jargon, no ilm, no tahqiq, wala shay. Then we have Abdul Rahim on August 21st. A lot of people who are claiming to be Salafi have classes online, they teach online. What should we do? Then Musa, listen to what Musa says. Listen to this. This is perhaps we're in our whole discussion with you, Musa, on this last point. This is really sad, Musa. He says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There's a lot of people who are claiming to be Salafi and have classes they teach online. What should we do in these times if we want to be a real talibul ilm for Allah's sake and learn from real scholars and teachers of the Salafi, one who says he's following the Salaf living here in the West? Take care of our responsibilities by seeking halal income, and we're not able to travel overseas to study under scholars. Musa writes on August 21st, 2017, 12:31 p.m. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you and grant you success. Stick to the people who teach you the academic knowledge. So we don't take academic knowledge. We don't teach no academic knowledge. None of this is academic knowledge. None of the books, none of the tapes, none of the shuruhat of Bukhari, of Lu'lu' Marjan, and Sahihain. None of that is academic knowledge at all. And anyone else besides me. None of it. Well, that's shay. None of it is academic. He then says, stick to the people who teach you the academic knowledge and working methodology of the Salaf. Who teaches academic knowledge? From someone that didn't study? Abwab Minha? I took a chapter from this book, a chapter from that book. That's academic knowledge. Musa? Someone that didn't go overseas, that can barely speak Arabic, that dropped out. That's academic knowledge. A translation of a lecture. The Sheikh said, this is what the Sheikh said. This is the fatwa of the Sheikh. This is what the Sheikh said. Telling, that's academic knowledge. Indak anta? Billahi alik. He then says, those who connect you to the scholars of Islam. We don't ever connect anyone to the scholars of Islam, period. Moving forward. It should be abundantly clear at this time that the greatest graduate with an unknown record or methodology or another YouTube channel with the newest gimmick is not the way. It says the latest graduate with an unknown record. Well, I'm not the latest graduate. That's first and foremost. Secondly, it's not bragging or boasting, but nothing about me is unknown. Nothing. Where I come from, where I studied, nothing about me is unknown. I have maybe 6 or 7 biographies on my channel alone. I talk about my background, where I came from, what city, what part of Philly I was born in. Nothing about me is unknown. So you can't be saying that about me. Rather, you guys are those who are unknown. You never talk about your backgrounds, where'd you study, what ijazat. You never mention the transparency that the people need. Never. Moving forward, he then says, with the newest, he says, or another YouTube channel, he says, unknown record or methodology. My methodology is unknown. He says, a newest gimmick. What's the newest gimmick? Hadith disciple? How long have we been teaching classes, translating books, ulama, for years? He then says, it should be very clear that anybody who slips in that the scholars really don't care about you, clearly proving that he's talking about who? Me. So don't say, Musa, I wasn't talking about you specifically. He then says, do not care about you or your situation is leading you to deviation, raw truths being spoken. We explained all of that. He then says, it does not matter if he uses the word Salafi or not, while fads pop up and fade away. Stick to the same old real Salafi methodology being taught day in and day out by the trustworthy callers in the West you've known for years, like Abul Hassan Malik and his brothers. Do not allow the latest rumors and internet fodder to pull you away from the clear benefit in your religion. Allah knows best. So that what you write is ilm, it's academic, it's no methodology. That what someone else writes or makes a video, it's fodder, it's gimmick, it's a YouTube channel. They're unknown and they're untrustworthy. May Allah help you, Musa. Yeah, this is disgraceful for you. This is what your pen produces. That's sad. Khairan, inshallah. I think perhaps bid'nillahi ta'ala we'll suffice ourselves with this. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us of all of our sins. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy upon our souls. We ask Allah the mighty and majestic to guide us all to the Siratul Mustaqim. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help Musa, help him out. We make dua for him that Allah will allow him to use his brain as Allah gave him one. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow him to use his eyes and his ears and to save him and deliver him from the stupidity and from the lack of robustness that he puts out in his tapes and his lectures and his articles. It's sad. Okay, we ask Allah to help Moosaa Richardson out, to guide him, to help him out and allow him to come back to the Sirat al-Mustaqim, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last but not least, brothers and sisters, I'll say this, that we're not claiming that we don't make mistakes. We're not claiming that we're perfect. We don't claim that we don't have inaccuracies and shortcomings. We're not claiming that. We haven't even discussed everything in detail. We're proving how your criticism is wrong, just like we proved years ago with Anwar Wright. We didn't have to get into every single detail of the Jarh wa Ta'dil, but we proved that his criticism was clearly futile. It was based off of slander, lie, and inaccuracies, and the ulama who preceded me in what I said. That's the main point here. Do the scholars really care about the West and the specific problems? We are not getting into that right now. What's important is we do not claim perfection. And my advice, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is for us all to make a sincere tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be honest with Him, be observant of Allah, be mindful of what we say about ourselves and about others. And bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, my advice is to take the beneficial knowledge from the kitab, from the sunnah, from the ijma', from the fahm and the salaf, the fahm and the sahaba, which is found in, except for any place of the books of the scholars, the lectures of the scholars, is to learn the beneficial knowledge, stay busy with beneficial knowledge, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Musa, last but not least, I'm inviting you to be a real hadith disciple. Perhaps Allah Azza wa Jalla would choose you for that honor, and if not, lillahi fi khalqihi shu'un. Allah does what He wants to do with His slaves. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد. Thank you very much for watching, for listening. We normally don't say make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you post, make sure you comment. We don't say those things. We don't call people to follow us. But if you want to subscribe, if you want to listen, if you want to watch or write a comment, good or bad, positive or negative, you're free to do so. We thank you in advance. Wassalam.